Welcome back, everyone. I think it was Winston Churchill who said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all of the others. And here in Saratoga, we're really putting democracy to the test. In my conversations with the mayor and other commissioners, every 10 years, the city is required to review the existing form of government, put a committee together. The committee analyzes that form of government and decides whether or not to make a recommendation for a different form of government. And this year, let's just say it's really been taken seriously. And joining me today is Bob Turner, who is the chair for the Charter Review Commission. So welcome, Bob.
Thank you for having me.
Very nice to have you here. I mentioned that every 10 years or so, the city requires that a committee is put together to analyze the forms of government, our form of government, and then make recommendations. Let's start off by talking about the three forms of government that are the options.
So there's three main forms of government. We have the commission form of government, which is relatively unique almost these days. There's only two other forms of commission forms of government here in New York. And there, what it is that the executive power is split into each individual council member as opposed to having an executive and a legislature. The other two forms are the so-called strong mayor city council system, where you elect a mayor and then you elect a number of city councils. It's sort of an executive legislative system that looks like what we see at most state or at the national level. The third form is the city council, the council city manager system. And there the voters elect a city council who in turn choose a city manager who has a professional degree in public administration to run the day-to-day operations based upon what the city council members tell him or her to do.
Now, let's dig into each one of these a little bit. The first one that Bob mentioned is the current form, which is the commission form. The city council has 5 members, including the mayor. Each one of them has an equal vote in what goes on. Now you've done a lot of exploration on this, and I want to dig into that a bit too. But let's just say, what does that mean if an issue comes before the mayor's office? How is it handled?
What's sort of unique about, I want to sort of take a step back and sort of say what's really unique about it. So you have the public safety commissioner, for example, who's in charge of the fire and police department. The Public Works, who deals with all public works agencies, accounts, who deals with accounts, finance, who deals with the finance and the budget, and then the mayor deals with the rec department, HR, and an assortment of other issues like appointments to the land use boards. So in essence, they are both a legislator and an executive for their little silo. So on one hand, they would all act as legislators, for example, voting like we saw on the recent ordinance on the homeless. And if you have 3 votes, that's the one that's going to win. But in their sort of day-to-day jobs, they're also responsible for overseeing the operations of those agencies. And so if it's a clear issue, right? Boy, my street's not plowed.
Right, it's directed
I know who to contact. I can contact the Commissioner of Public Works. But a lot of times there's issues that sort of fall between the cracks, where it's not clear which silo it's in.
And then that might not, the solution of which then becomes more complicated because there's a lot of different kinds of interactions there. There may be personal agendas there. There could be all kinds of issues that come into play there. And another thing also, you have to realize that all of the commissioners, including the mayor in this form of government, are part-time employees. And as anyone will tell you, part-time becomes full-time before you even blink an eye, just because of the demands on trying to run a city government, right?
Oh, yeah. We've interviewed basically almost every living current and former city council member. And there's a phrase that a number of them have given us: it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And a number of them said, they're on vacation, they're lying at the beach, and there's the cell phone next to them, and their spouse is like, really, do you really have to take the call? And yes, it's City Hall, I have to take it. And they do have to file timesheets for their $14,500 But the sort of joke is they're averaging about $1 an hour, and that's not even including for pain and suffering.
No, I'm sure. Now, the mayor contacted you last April. The committee was put together, right? This is the biggest committee they've ever had, 15 members. Yep. I was talking to Bob before we went on air. Very, very diverse sections of the population, right? So everyone has nice representation in this. You know what I was really impressed with? You're doing such a thorough job. Now, you fielded a couple of different surveys, correct?
Yep.
And tell me about some of the information that you're getting back again.
So one of the big surveys that we just did was we did a survey of potential candidates or civic leaders in the community about why you do or don't run for office. Even more important than form of government is the quality of the people that are in there. And so we sent surveys out to everyone on the land use boards, Leadership Saratoga. We contacted the party leaders to say, tell me the 20 people who you think would be a good city council member. And we've gotten 200 responses. And one of the things that's just really striking is to look and see how many people say they're likely to run under different forms of government. And so for this commission form of government, you get 2 to 4 people who say they might run for finance or public works. But in our survey of 200 people, not a single person said they would run for accounts. Not a single person said that they were extremely likely to run for public safety. And I think 4 or 5 said they would run for mayor. Now, if you compare that with a different system, just a pure city council system where people get to serve as a part-time legislator, when we looked at that, it was 50 people said they would run for that. They were somewhat or extremely likely to run. So we could see if we had a different form of government, we would get a much larger pool of people who could run. And in many ways, it makes sense. I mean, do you feel like you're qualified to run the police or fire department?
Yeah, completely.
Well,
I'm not sure you would want me to run for that. You want to know something, Bob? They give me a little signal here in the control room. I don't want to cut this conversation off, so we're going to do this interview in 2 parts, Great. All right? So for part 1, you can go to our website. If you want to see this again, you can go to looktvonline.com.